All right, this is our solving division equations lesson. So last lesson for solving equations. We've done add, subtract, multiply. Finally, we're going to do divide. So go ahead and get your notes page set up. Title across the top, our learning standard next, and then our I can statement, what we're aiming for. By the time this video is done, you should hopefully be comfortable with solving both addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division equations. All right, so let's jump right in. As you can probably expect, in order to solve a division problem, so like this one says 5 is equal to y divided by 4. To solve a division problem, we're going to use the opposite, which means we're going to multiply, just like we have in all the rest of them. Here, I divided it by 4. So right now, I don't have all of y, I just have a part of it. It's been chopped up into pieces. So I need to do the opposite. They divided it by 4, so I want to put those 4 pieces back together. I want to multiply it times 4. But I have to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to have to multiply by 4 over here. Remember, don't use the x for multiplication because you're going to have variables involved in the problem and you don't want to get them confused. So your safest bet is to stick with your dot for multiplication. Multiplying by 4, dividing by 4. Those kind of cancel each other out. They turn into 1, so I'm just left with y. 4 times 5 is 20. So let's see if that's really true. Let's check our answer. Put in 20 in place of y. So 20 divided by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. That's what I wanted for my solution. So I know I did it correctly. Okay. All right. Now let's do our bar diagram. The division ones are just a little bit different, but we can kind of see how to put it all together. So we start with our total amount y. And it says we want to break it up into 4 pieces. So underneath, we're going to kind of show how it would look if it were divided up into 4 parts. So the whole thing is my total of y, but I want to break it up into 4 parts. So I'm showing what I would get if I broke it into 4. And the problem tells me that one grouping is equal to 5. So one group is equal to 5. So this one's 5, this one's 5, this one's 5, this one. So the whole thing is y, but we broke it into 4 pieces. Each one is equal to 5. Now, think about how you would try to find y here. Okay, get rid of my little extra mark there. In order to find y, we would take that 5 and we'd multiply it times 4, because there are 4 groups in total. Well, 5 times 4, same thing we did in our problem up here. So let's tackle another one. X divided by 6, remember the fraction mark means divide, is equal to 17. So we draw our line down through the middle, and we take a look at our variable, x. What did they do to x? Well, they divided it up into 6 smaller pieces. So I want to go back to what x started with, that big number x. In order to do that, I need to undo this multiplication, or sorry, this division. So I'm going to multiply by 6. But I got to treat both sides of the equation equally. So multiply this side times 6. Multiplying and dividing by 6. 6 divided by 6 turns into 1. That's what we wanted. So we're just left with our 1x, or x. 17 times 6. Well, I don't know my 17s, so I'm going to do a quick little multiplication. 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So I get an answer of 102. Always want to check your answer. So let's go back and try it. 102 divided by 6. So let's divide by 6. 6 goes into 10 one time. I get 4 left over, and I bring down my 2. 6 goes into 42 7 times. Try to get 42, get my 0. So yes, I did get 17 for my answer. Last step, go ahead and draw our bar diagram. So we started with some amount X, some big amount. And they divided it up into 6 parts, each of which was equal to 17. So below it, I go ahead and I draw out my bar diagram. And I'm going to chop it up into 6 equal parts. Each of those is equal to 17. So I got a whole bunch of 17s here. Well, think about how would I find this big amount X? Well, I'd have to put all of these 17s back together. I would have to do 6 times 17. So sometimes drawing your bar diagram goes a long way towards helping you see how do I tackle the problem. All right, a couple more. If you're feeling pretty comfortable with solving your equations, feel free to pause, try 1 or 2 of these problems on your own, then hit play, see how you do. If you're still not quite sure you're comfortable with it yet, go ahead and work through the problems with me as we do the problem. So over here, 4 is equal to W divided by 13. Remember that fraction bar means divide. So I'm going to draw my line down through the middle, and I'm going to take a look at my variable. What did they do to W? Well, they divided it into 13 parts. So I want to undo that. I want to do the opposite. So I want to multiply times 13. But I got to treat both parts of my equation equally, so I multiply both sides by 13. 13, multiplying by 13 and dividing by 13, they cancel each other out. They turn back into a 1, so I'm just left with my W. That's my goal, is always to get my variable all by itself. 13 times 4, well, 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 1 is 52. So I did a little mental math there. 52 is equal to W. So let's check our answer. 52 divided by 13. Well, if I double check my multiplication table, 52 divided by 13 really does give me an answer of 4. So I know I got my correct answer. That one works. Next one. I know you're looking at this one going, oh no, there's decimals in there. I can't do this one. Don't let what kind of numbers are in there change how you tackle the problem. You do the problem exactly like you would otherwise. We look at M and say, what did they do to M? Well, they divided by 3.2. So I want to do the opposite. I want to multiply times 3.2. But I've got to do the same thing on both sides of the equation. Multiplying and dividing by 3.2 cancel each other out. So I'm just left with M. Over here, I need to do a little multiplication. 4.7 times 3.2. Luckily, we remember how to multiply. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Start that second row, so I got to start it with a 0. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Add it up, 4, 10, 5, and 1. And then remember your last step. You got to go back and put your decimal point in. There was 1, 2 decimal places in the problem, so I want to come in 2 spots with my answer. Now we get an answer of 15.04. Okay? Then remember, you should always go back and double check your answer. I don't have enough space to do it here, so we can do it tomorrow in class, but we would just do 15.04, that's my M, divided by 3.2, and see, do we really get 4.7? So we'll check that tomorrow in class together where we have a little bit more space to write it out. All right, so let's see if we can do it in a story problem now. It says, Allison is baking a pie. She wants 4.5 strawberries in each serving for 8 people. Write and solve a division equation to find out how many strawberries Allison will need. So what we're looking for is how many strawberries. So let's call that B for berries. Okay. She wants 4.5 strawberries in each serving for 8 people. So how do we go about finding our solution? Well, we take the total number of berries and we want to divide it into 8 groupings so that each group is equal to 4.5 strawberries. So the total berries divided up by 8 people gives us 4.5. So let's solve it. Well, we were dividing by 8, so we want to do the opposite. We want to multiply times 8. But like we have started to learn, you always have to do it to both sides of the equation. 8 divided by 8 becomes 1, so I'm just left with b. 4.5 times 8, have to do a little bit of multiplication. 4.5 times 8, 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 4 is 36. 1 decimal point in the problem, so I put in 1 in my answer. I get an answer of 36. Okay? So if you were to buy 36 strawberries and break it up into 8 groups, each person will get 4.5 strawberries. Well, let's double check our answer. So let's plug in 36 for B. So 36 divided by 8. Let's go ahead and divide. 8 goes into 3 0 times. So we look at 36. 8 goes into 36 4 times. It's 32. Subtract to get 4. So I need to add my decimal so I can add a 0 and keep dividing. Bring down my 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. Subtract, I get 0. So I do get an answer of 4.5, just what we want. But when you're writing out these equations, don't think about what you need to do to solve it. Save on that. First set up the problem and what do you need to find. How you solve it is how you're going to go about tackling the problem. So when you think about, oh, I want to multiply times 8, okay, that's how you're going to solve it. That means you must have been dividing by 8 in the problem originally. Think backwards through the problem in terms of, based on what you want to do to solve it, work backwards to figure out what must have happened when we set up the problem in the first place. All right, here's how you're going to finish out. I want you to jot these 4 problems down in your notes, and I want you to tackle each one of them. So we have an addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. For each one, draw your line down through your equal sign, take a look at your variable and decide what did they do to w or to x. Remember, to solve your equation, we always want to do the opposite, but you have to do it to both sides of the equation. You're going to treat everything equally. And then when you're all done, don't forget to go back and check each one of your answers. Make sure it really did work. By the time you're done, hopefully you'll feel comfortable with solving all 4 types of equations.